Welcome back. When the government announced plans this week to build tens of thousands more homes in Auckland, including affordable and social housing, Labor hit back, calling the policy a poor version of its own Kiwi build. We asked the Social Housing Minister, Amy Adams, to come on the program this morning, but she was unavailable. So Labor's housing spokesman, Phil Twatford, joins me now. Well, they've just taken the wind out of your sails, haven't they, with that policy?
Well, not at all, Lisa. This is a huge letdown, this policy announcement by the government, for first home buyers, young Kiwi families who are desperate to get into a home of their own. This government's been in office for 9 years. They've denied there's a housing crisis every year. It's got worse every year. And now, 160 days out from an election, they put out a press release talking about building some houses. It has no credibility.
Are you really going to sit there and say that increasing housing stock, 34,000 houses announced, are you going to say that increasing housing stock is a bad thing? Seriously?
So they announced this week 2,000 extra affordable houses that they say are affordable. 2,000. Lisa, we're going to build 100,000 affordable homes over 10 years.
That's not true. Amy Adams said a minimum of 20% and up to 50% of the housing announced will be affordable.
Yeah, she said 20%. That works out at something like 4,500 houses over 10 years.
Up to 50%.
They've already built half of those, so there's only 2,000 new ones in the announcement. They say they've been working on this proposal for 2 years, but she can't say exactly how many of them are affordable.
Well, she has. She said up to 50% will be affordable.
Yeah, but she's only willing to guarantee 20%, and their record in this area is appalling. Now, take the Hobsonville
hang on, I want to get to
development.
Hobsonville in a minute, but I want to look at this first. The government says 650,000 is affordable. Now, that's $350,000 cheaper than the average house price in Auckland. Can you really do better than that?
But is 650,000 affordable? You know, that's the government's definition of affordability, and the reason they use it is because that's the threshold for people who get a Home Start subsidy.
Yep.
By definition, if they need a government subsidy to buy a $650,000 house, I don't think it is affordable. So we can do much better than that, and that's why with Kiwi build homes, we're going to be delivering townhouses, flats and apartments for under $500,000. With Kiwi build, we'll deliver in Auckland a standalone, modest but beautifully designed and constructed home for under $600,000.
All right, I want to get to your Kiwi build policy soon, but Hobsonville development is an example of what the government considers a successful mixed housing zone and wants to expand on that. I mean, is there any evidence to the contrary that it's not as great as they say it is? Because it looks good.
Well, I think Hobsonville's been a success commercially and design-wise. But it demonstrates that National's approach when it comes to affordability and helping first home buyers is pretty hopeless. Fewer than 20% of the homes at Hobsonville are affordable by the government's own definition. Almost half of them cost over $1 million.
Well, hang on. I've got an email here from the chief executive of that project that tells us 23% of the homes, of the 1,000 homes that have been built there, are valued at less than $550,000. 16%, an additional 16%, under $650,000. So it's quick maths. 39% of the 1,000 homes out there fall into the category of affordable.
If you look at the values of those properties at Hobsonville now, significantly less than 20% are affordable now.
Well, this is the prices that they were bought for. That's more important, isn't it? So 39% of them were affordable.
Yeah, my understanding is that only 20% of the homes at Hobsonville are affordable. Half of those have been sold on the open market and snapped up by speculators.
Well, hang on, Mr. Twatford, that's not true, because that project has forced 3 speculators or investors to return houses after it was discovered that they were purchasing them. So they are policing this.
That's only half of the so-called affordable homes that are sold. The other half are sold on the open market to anyone. And you have to assume half of the houses in Auckland that are being sold now are being snapped up by speculators. Why should Hobsonville be any different?
Isn't that how you pay for the affordable houses, though? That's how you make it palatable for developers, and it's how we afford to have houses at cheaper prices for people in need of them.
Well, our criticism, Lisa, of Hobsonville is that they've taken a multi-billion-dollar development of prime publicly owned land. The first thing National did was strip out all of the state housing because it said that allowing low-income families to live there would be economic vandalism. The number of affordable houses is far too low.
Okay.
We need affordable homes for first home buyers.
Let's move on to what your solution is, which is Kiwi Build. You've already said that freestanding houses will be 600,000 or less. And where exactly are these 100,000 houses going?
So Lisa, we don't have a land shortage in New Zealand. Fewer than 1% of the land is urbanised. We have a highly restrictive planning system that chokes off the supply of new land. Labor's going to free up those controls and allow cities to grow up.
So where
and
specifically?
out.
Where specifically? Because as you pointed out, we're 4 months from an election. Where's the list from Labor that shows me exactly where the houses go? Like this list from National, which shows me exactly which suburbs and how many houses. Where's your list?
So we're going to build large urban development projects, many of them around the railway network in Auckland. So places like Henderson, Manukau, Mount Wellington, Onehunga, Panmure, Avondale.
Have you got the sites specifically identified?
Actually, Auckland Council's already done much of the work on this. Their development agency, Panuku, has already identified all of those sites as being appropriate for development. But Lisa, we're also going to do developments on the fringes of the city as well.
Amy Adams says that they are using in this plan basically all the available Crown land. So I'm struggling to understand where your land is that you're going to build 100,000 houses on, and why I haven't yet seen, because this policy of yours is what, 4.5 years old?
So here's where Labor's approach is different from National. National lacks ambition in this area. Their approach is confined to knocking down state houses and building private houses on that land. We are going to take a much broader, more productive approach.
So have you got a list of lots, of land lots, that you can give to us so we can have a look at it? Have you got that?
We are going to work with the council. We're going to work with Ngāti Whātua. We're going to work with other investors. And if we're necessary, we will buy private land to develop.
Okay. And what budget are you putting aside for that?
We've committed $2 billion to kickstart Kiwi Build, and we're going to establish an affordable housing authority that will act as an urban development agency. So that
$2 billion of seeding money, are you telling us that that's going to pay for the first wave of houses and all the commercially bought land that you're going to have to buy?
Well, we haven't identified exactly how much land we will buy, but we are going to establish an affordable housing authority. Hang on, Lisa, you've asked me a question.
Isn't that the problem,
Let me answer,
the details?
And I will give you an answer. We're establishing an affordable housing authority that will cut through the red tape, will put capital in to get it started, but it's going to manage the Crown's entire urban land holdings. It will use that balance sheet to buy land and develop land with other partners. So it's a very different approach to what the government is saying.
So who is going to build your 10,000 houses a year? Because we know that there's a shortage of workers in the construction industry. So who's going to build these?
So call us old-fashioned, but we think it's the job of the government to grow a New Zealand workforce of skilled tradespeople. So we're going to massively increase the training for the construction trades and professions. That's our priority. Now, the fact that the national...
That takes time, doesn't it?
And that's right.
You are aiming to build 10,000 houses a year. The apprenticeship industry tells us that we need 60,000 new workers over the next 5 years, and half of them need to be tradies. So, come December 24th, September 24th, who is building? Who's building these houses?
Look, so National has completely failed to build the New Zealand workforce. They haven't invested in the apprentices and the professions to do this work. Now, if we have to, we will rely on skilled tradespeople. We'll bring in electricians, plumbers and carpenters from overseas if we have to.
Despite your policy of tightening up immigration?
Well, Lisa, the reason it's called an immigration policy is that we get to choose who comes here.
All right.
So we will choose the electricians, the plumbers and the carpenters instead of bringing people to this country to flip burgers and pump gas.
We're going to have to leave it there. Nice to talk to you this morning. Welcome back. You are with The Nation and our panel. Talking with Phil Twatford there about housing, obviously another big topic this week. They've had the Kiwi Build policy for 4.5 years now. Did he have the details to back it up, do you think?
No, not at all. The perfect question that you asked, where are you going to build these houses? Where's your list? And I talked to him after the interview and I said, so have you got any idea where you're going to build these houses? Are you going to compulsorily acquire them, like they do for building roads and things like that? He doesn't think he'll compulsory acquire land to do it, but he says he'll just go to farms and things on the outskirts of Auckland and make offers on their property and say, can we buy your land?
Well, he said they are going to buy commercial land, not just Crown land.
And they will develop it themselves.
Unfair to expect him to have the details,
I
Lila?
think that was a bit rough, Lisa, and that, you know, they're in opposition, they're not in government. Anyone can go in and check out whether Auckland Council have already identified available land. Of course they know where Crown land is available, and the government has, you know, that information too. I don't think you could have expected him reasonably to pull out the iPad and show you on Google Maps exactly where each house was going to be. And had he done that, he'd be accused of being a Stalinist control freak. So, I mean, it seems to me Labor have a very convincing case to make around their ability to deliver on a policy of 100,000 houses, including 50,000 in Auckland.
But do they, Matthew? Because Amy Adams came out this week and said the 34,000 houses is basically using up every ounce of Crown land.
Crown land,
yes, Crown land that is available.
That they're prepared to buy land to deliver on this. And there are many, I mean, we all know of potential land that's available, people who own large sections but aren't into property development, aren't anticipating building. These can be identified. There can be almost a social project to identify.
Okay,
Why hasn't he identified it though?
Because he's in opposition. They're campaigning to win the government.
Should we just, why don't we just get some reality in this discussion? Because this policy will never be implemented because it will be undesirable for it to be implemented. They're talking about 100,000 houses over 10 years. They're saying it would take 2 to 3 years to ramp up, in which case the policy would end up being pro-cyclical, not counter-cyclical. Already, house price inflation nationally is 0. According to QV, house prices are already falling in parts of Auckland. There is no way in 3-4 years' time, when house prices are gently falling, a government is going to deliberately crash the market by building 100,000 cheap houses and smash
fewer houses.
These are in addition to those that
population.
Well, Labor has said it will cancel. Reduce immigration.
Phil
Twatford indicated he'd bring in workers to help build them.
No government at a time when house prices will not be increasing, they will be falling, will deliberately crash the market by building 100,000 houses. Well, and there are not 40,000 houses short per year because there are not 40,000 homeless families in Auckland, and there are not an increase in 40,000 homeless people each year.
So you're just denying both the government and Labor's analysis of the housing market.
It is simply not true that there is a 40,000 a year shortage of houses in Auckland, because if there were, there would each year be an additional 40,000 homeless families, and there are not.
That have been given.
Well, as Lila points out, Matthew, both main parties, accept that there's a need for more houses. And
at the present time, the number of consents are at a record. Construction is at a record, but construction appears not to be able to increase at the same rate as consents, according to the Reserve Bank, because the construction industry is at capacity. So announcing this policy and saying you're going to do this thing with imaginary builders is nonsense, nor will a Labor government, if there is one, in 3, 4, 5 years' time, wish to crash the housing market when prices are already falling.
All right, we'll leave the parties to fight over the housing.
No, but it's very... I mean, we've had this debate...
You don't think there'll be a housing crisis in 3 years?
There's not a housing crisis now because house price inflation, according to QV, has already ended. We're at 0% house price inflation, according to QV, over the last 12 months. This is typical of government announcements. There was an issue 5 years ago when David Shearer first announced Kiwi Build. By the time both National and Labor have got their act together to do something about it, the policy is not only no longer needed, but is undesirable because no government will want to crash property prices.
Okay, let's move it on.